Good morning students, welcome back to Triveni Memorial Senior Secondary School online classes. Students, in the last class we started with our chapter Indian Weavers and Iron Smelters, and today we are going to start with the chapter ahead and with our topic, that is cotton mills come up. So that headline itself is suggesting that this was the time period when cotton mills got established. So what we can say, that if we used to talk that where was the place where the first cotton mill was got established, then that place was Bombay. And in which year this first cotton mill was established? In Bombay. And where, in which year? That is in 1854. So what is said here, that Bombay had grown as an important port of export of raw cotton from India to England and China. Bombay was near the coastal area, that is why, as it was the port city also, it was very easy to transport raw material, that is raw cotton, from India to England or to other part or the rest part of the world. Now what is said here, that it was close to the west. I already told you it was close to the western India and to the rest of the part also. So from Bombay, we can say Bombay was one of the designation from where easy trade was easily possible from across the border or from all over the world. Now what is mentioned here, that by 1900 around 84 mills got established in Bombay only. We are talking about particular place, only in Bombay 84 mills got established, and these were established by different peoples like Parsi people, Gujarati, and all these were businessmen. Definitely that is why they got established their cotton mills in these areas. Thereafter students, another things are also here. As the demand of cotton clothes is more there, we saw a tremendous, you can say, increase in the establishment or the growth of cotton mills. And when cotton mills increases, the demand for labor also increase. The demand for artisans, the demand for craft persons also increases. And when the demand increases, what does that mean? People started getting more job opportunities for themselves, and that is the only reasons that in fact agricultural laborers also started migrating, also starting moving from villages to cities in these miles in order to get jobs or in order to get employment for themselves. Thereafter students, other reasons are also there. We have studied already this thing, that why Indian textile industries got declined, because they started facing competition from British companies. That fact had already been discussed by us. In most of the countries, government support industrialization by imposing heavy duties on imports. Now what does that mean? That means if in India, Indian mills are there and Indian government want to prevent the rights of Indian weavers, what Indian government did was it can import heavy tax on other trading of other you can say countries like Dutch people, Portuguese, English, etc. so that Indian people interest could be protected. Now what is there, that the colonial government in India, they usually refused such protection of local industries. Obviously they were not interested in protecting the interest of local industries or protecting the interest of local people. They were just interested in doing trading and earning an enormous amount of profit for themselves. Students, our next topic is the sword of Tipu Sultan and Wooz steel. Student, all of you know this thing very well, that Tipu Sultan was one of the biggest warriors, and the sword that he used during battles or during wars was of very fine edged, very sharp edge, that sharp edge that it can even cut the arm of a particular person during war. But the question is of what metal that particular sword is made up of. That sword is made up of a particular metal, and the name of that metal is woos, which is of extremely high quality, incredible quality. Now see students, the availability of woos metal is not all over the world, it's specially present in Mysore, and the structure, or you can say the structure or the furnace means the structure only through which you are converting this particular metal woos into the shape of sword is present in Mysore only, and these furnaces are mixed with charcoal inside the post and with the help of clay pots, and thereafter they were given with the perfect shape of sword. So that is regarding sword, and this sword was so famous that it was even depicted in the museum in England because of the good quality of woos steel present in it. And the Europeans were so fascinated means they were so interested, so impressed by the quality of this woos steel, that when they discovered, or they were interested in discovering regarding electricity and electromagnetism, they started you can say thinking or finding or working on the properties of Indian woos. For that they studied Indian woos in South India and in other parts also where woos steel is present, because they all know this thing that the quality of woos steel is very fine, because they have seen that thing already in case of Tipu Sultan's sword. Moving ahead student, abundant furnaces in village. Furnaces, I already told you, particular structure through which we used to modify these metals. Which metals? Woos metal into a particular shape. Which shape? Shape of sword. They were in abundance, they were in plenty amount in the villages, and different refining iron techniques were also present there in villages. So what is there? All the iron smelters community were commonly found in villages and in different parts of the country, like in Bihar and in central India, where iron smelters were there, and they were widely spread and were know very well about this thing, that how to work on the property of woos steel, because they use this which metal? Woos as a metal or as a tool in their daily use. That is why they were more familiar with its property. And the ferments, I already told you in the last topic also, it was made up of very fine clay and with sun dried bricks, and that is why, and then it is kept in the charcoal burning, and thereafter only when it is kept in charcoal burning and with the sunshine, it got heated up, it got smelted and take the particular shape of what a particular person want to give it as it, like the shape of sword in case of Tipu Sultan sword. So moving ahead students, by the late 19th century, the craft of iron smelting was in decline. So what does that mean? That means that the craft of iron smelting industries was declining day by day. So we need to see the various reason why craft industries were declining. That is what mentioned here. So let's see students. So the first reason is the forest law. Why these industries, craft industries were declining? The first reason after that or behind that was the forest law, which state that the colonial government cannot, not the colonial government, the local people, the tribal group have no right to assess the forest products. If the tribal groups, if the common people want to use forest produce, then they need to seek permission from forest department, that is from British government, and British government were not giving them permission to use these products. And in some cases, if they used to provide or give permission to these people for using forest produce, they collected very high amount of taxes from these people which they were unable to pay, and that is why these people, tribal people or common people, started migrating from forest and starting moving to cities in search of new job opportunities for themselves. They became masons, they started manufacturing utensils for themselves, they became local smelters, or they shifted themselves to cities in search of new job opportunities. The next topic is iron and steel factories come up in India. Students, if we talk about iron and steel factories, then one of the biggest name regarding industries that came in our mind is regarding TISCO, that is Tata Iron and Steel Company, about which we are going to study in this topic. See students, what is mentioned here, that during the month of April in 1904, one of the American geologist and Dorabji Tata, we all know about him, they both, and his eldest son also, that is Jamshedji Tata, they basically started searching for iron ore deposits in all over India. Why? The question is why they were searching for iron deposits in India? Because they were interested in establishing iron and steel industries in India. And when a person is planning to start any sort of industry, the first question is availability of raw material. So that is why they want iron and steel as raw material in the form of ore. So they started searching for iron ore deposit. Now what happened, as they roam from one place to another place, they just reaches to one of the mountain areas and hilly areas where they met the agarias. Agarias are the local smelters, you can see, or the local people who were carrying little sort of iron or steel ores in the basket. And when these two people, that is Mr. Tata and that American geologist, asked them that from where they got these iron, then they told them that nearby one place is there, nearby the dense forest one place is there where they found these iron ore products, and from there only they collected there. They both visited there, but after visiting there, what they found it there, that iron ores were present there definitely, but not in abundant amount. And second thing, that region is a dry region. What does that means? That means availability of water is not there, and to start any industry, water is for sure required. And they were planning to start up their new project, that is regarding Bhilai steel product. So they were not satisfied with this location because they were not getting suitable iron and steel ores, and secondly proper water resources also not there. So that is why they continued their search, and finally they reach one of the place which is near river Sabarnekha and obviously nearby forest region, and this township was called as Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur was one of the place which was nearby Sabarnakhi river, and that region was forest area. In this area, abundant amount of iron and steel ores were present. So what Tata Group and Industries decided, that they are going to clear the forest and they are going to set up industry there, as iron ore and steel ores are also found there, and secondly the water shortage problem would not be also there. Why? Because this particular location, that is Jamshedpur, is nearby Subarnamrekha river. So that is why water problem is also not there. As both the problem got solved there, water scarcity problem is also not there, and adequate amount of iron ore were also present here. So both of them have started or implemented the township, their industries in that area. Now see students, what happened, that through the 19th century, India was importing steel that was manufactured in Britain. In the very starting, India used to import steel from Britain. But when TISCO got established, that is Tata Iron and Steel Industries, it expanded its industries, these iron and steel industries, in such a way that the demand for iron and steel in India could be fulfilled by them only, and no need to import such material from other country. Now what happens, students? There was a time period when construction of railways was taking place in India, and you know, if railway construction was taking place, so definitely the requirement of iron and steel was there. So this also gives rise to the growth of more iron and steel industries by TISCO and other companies expand. And second thing, students, in India there was reduction in import of iron and steel from British. And what was the reason behind that? The reason was the situation of the First World War. As the First World War situation regarding TISCO, I already told you, as the First World War situation was there in England, what happened? They needs iron and steel to used in tools or to used in weapons for themselves. So they were not interested in exporting their goods to India. So definitely, if we talk about reversely, import of such goods in India got declined, but demand it was still there. What does that mean? That give rise to Indian iron and steel industries. Although as First World War situation was there, British people also started exporting these iron and steel from India. So that is why these iron and steel industries got expanded at a very large level because of the First World War situation and because of the government policies also, that if Indian people continue to import iron and steel from Europe or from England, and they had to pay high taxes or high charges. So definitely this step by the government and by Indian people leads to establishment of or growth of iron and steel industries in India. So in the last decades, as industrialization was establishing in India and Indians were coming ahead with more and more trade activities, so in the last decades what we found, decline in the colonial rule in India. What does that mean? We started avoiding, or the, you can say, disrupt of the colonial rule, that is British government from India completely. So students, that's it about our chapter, and I hope that you understand the chapter very well, and thank you students for understanding this chapter. And in the next class we will discuss the question answers of this chapter. So thank you students.